Do you ever wonder how we got here into a crossover dominant automotive market in the US? Well, let's meet one of the founding members of this class, the Infiniti FX platform. This vehicle came out over 20 years ago. However, the model we're taking a look at is a 2014 QX70, so near the end of its life cycle. Infiniti right now is trying to find their groove, bringing back the 65 and giving you a sportier appearance, that rounder appearance that we loved from Infiniti many years ago. They're also going to come back with a sedan with a manual transmission. But in today's video, we're going to find out if going backwards in time is the right choice here for you and your family. Today we'll be taking a look at this 2014 Infiniti QX70, see what it's offering, see how it compares to modern day crossovers, and also see why this SUV right here is very, very special. Now, before I dive into this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Infiniti of Norwood in Norwood, Massachusetts for letting me come down here to check out the Infiniti QX70. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Infiniti inventory. As we take a look at the exterior of the QX70, for me, it all starts with the side profile. The swooping rear fascia, the rounder rear fascia with the hatchback-like design, and the long extended hood, giving you a Grand Tour-like appearance. Now, this styling was not common in 2003 and 2004 when the FX first came out. In fact, it was concept car-like to have a design in this manner. It wouldn't be common until about 2013, 2014, when Audi, Porsche, BMW, later on Alfa Romeo with the Stelvio would catch on to give you a performance-oriented crossover when it came to the exterior appearance. Now, back in 2014, the QX70 was near the end of its life cycle. And you had to sit there and think, well, if this vehicle is so beloved by many, how did it not succeed? Well, in 2014, on the high end with the V8, you were spending over $60,000, then tack on features and other equipment. This would go head-to-head with the BMW X5, X6, Porsche Cayenne, Range Rover Sport. And because the FX body style this generation had kind of gotten long in the tooth, the technology was far behind, even the practicality and the cargo space just wasn't there to meet the demands of modern-day Americans. But now we have the opportunity to take a look at this vehicle once again in the 2020s to see just how advanced and far ahead Infiniti really was. So as we take a look at the front end of this model, it all starts with the body lines on the hood. Extremely aerodynamic. And when you get behind the wheel, you see that shape, you see that curvature, and it just gives you that sense of, wow, I'm driving a sports car here, but it's on stilts. And that continues into the front end with the headlights as well. This is also aerodynamic, the way it curves into the front fascia. You have bi-xenon headlamps. This is before LED headlights were becoming very common in this class. You have the chrome accents, which are still common now in modern day Infinitis, and that large Infiniti emblem finished in chrome as well. As we make our way over to the side profile, there's a bit more to talk about here than just the tires themselves. We have the chrome accents here with the grille design, really nice car-like in appearance. The 3.7 liter badge letting us know we have the naturally aspirated V6 under the hood and not the 5 liter V8. And then we have the wheels. We have 20-inch alloys on this model. That was optional back in 2014, so maybe a bit more on-road stiffness, maybe more road noise. We'll talk about that during the test drive, and they are wrapped in Michelins. Now, of course, with this being an SUV or crossover of its time, you have cladding here around the wheel arches, making its way over to the side profile, and you still have some chrome accents, again, extending along the side profile. You have body color match side mirror caps, but no turn signal indicators, not surprised there at all. Above, we are going to have that moonroof and some roof rails, so that way if you are going on a camping trip, you can store things up there if you so desire. Now, making our way around to the back here, this is where things get a bit interesting in terms of its overall appearance, and also possibly where it went wrong for Infiniti with the QX70 and FX. So you're going to have the sloping roofline here for the C-pillars, which again is modern now with the Alfa Romeo Stelvio, even the Acura RDX and the Porsche Macan. However, this was supposed to be a mid-size crossover at $60,000, and yet it does look like a compact SUV. And you got to remember that there was a smaller vehicle beneath this, the EX. And the EX was smaller than most compact crossovers. So you can kind of get the idea that size is really where Infiniti kind of failed a bit on that one. Now, with those body lines, they extend into the LED taillights. That is right, these are LEDs. For 2014, pretty impressive. You also have the hatchback-like rear window, so that will help out with some of the visibility there. You have more chrome accents, and then for the lower portion of the rear bumper, dual exhaust outlets. And now you have that cladding there, which is very common now in the automotive industry. But it's a design to me that really lets me know just how far ahead Infiniti really was at the time, because this right here, this is common now in the automotive industry. Powering the Infiniti QX70 we have today is going to be a 3.7 liter naturally aspirated V6, producing 325 horsepower and 267 pound-feet of torque. It is paired with a 7-speed automatic transmission, which I gotta say, I've already done the test drive. This 7-speed is better than the 9-speed in the QX60. So we can only assume what the QX65 is gonna be like when that arrives here in a few short weeks. Also, more importantly with this vehicle, you could go with rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. And with all-wheel drive, better year-end capability and versatility, but rear-wheel drive equals more fun. Now, obviously though, out of a naturally aspirated V6 or even an optional V8 that was available for the QX70, it was a gas guzzler. And to meet modern emissions, to meet modern demands, they had to go in the turbo 4 direction or a V6 that was not gonna drink up that fuel. So in some ways it was necessary for Infiniti to move on from this. When you take a look at the setup though, with the horsepower that came standard, the ability to have a vehicle that was fun and engaging, it's almost sad now to see that Infiniti doesn't give us that in 2026. Now let's go over that V8 though, that V8 option, what that engine gave us here back in 2014. You're looking at 390 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque, and all-wheel drive did come standard for that vehicle with paddle shifters as well. So a more modern setup out of the QX70 with that V8, although in 2015, the paddle shifters did become standard for the V6 as well. So mechanically here, we got an old school setup, and I really like that. Hopping inside the Infiniti QX70 we're taking a look at today, we're greeted by power adjustable quilted leather trim seats for both the driver and passenger. You're gonna notice the Infiniti badge being stamped on the back of these seats, giving us a sense of definition, quality, class, something you wanna see here out of a vehicle at the time priced between $45,000 and $60,000, and it also gives you a sense of premium luxury as well. The driver's side will give you 2-position memory for added convenience. You have memory outside mirror positioning and steering column positioning as well. Great stuff to see here for a vehicle that's 12 years old now, and I understand a lot of manufacturers were offering this at the time, but still though, for a vehicle from Infiniti, this is really great stuff here. What I love to see though is the smaller details, the wood grain trim on the door panels, on the dashboard, then even have the dashboard wrap around you, giving you a car-like experience too. And I have to say, the interior really isn't that much different than an Infiniti G37. So very similar styling in that way, and I'm not going to sit here and complain about that, although maybe back in 2014, someone was going to argue, well, we need to have a more unique interior. I would disagree. Now, in front of you will be a leather-wrapped steering wheel, which feels really nice in the hands. You're going to have firm 10 and 2 and firm 9 and 3 positioning here. Now, it's not going to be aggressive like a sports crossover, so temper your expectations here, but still feels really nice almost 12 years later. In front of you is going to be a small information display in between your analog gauges. To the side of the dashboard here, you're going to notice some buttons here. So one is going to be for this information display itself, where you can scroll through some information such as your remaining range, your MPGs, outside temperature. Then you have your settings here for your alert, maintenance, customized. It's all right here. Now, I love the fact we have analog gauges. I'm so tired of digital gauge clusters. The analog gauges gives you so much more character here out of this vehicle, and it's really nice to see. Also on the left side of the dashboard or left side of the gauge cluster will be 2 more buttons here, and this adjusts your brightness. Also, you can raise and lower that brightness for the information display. So really cool stuff to see here. Now, making our way over to the infotainment system, here we have a very small touchscreen with onboard navigation, not wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. I caught myself, guys. I almost went there with this vehicle, filming way too many new products. But it is refreshing to see we do have Bluetooth connectivity. Now, from the screen, it is simple. It's very, very simple. In fact, you're going to have buttons for your navigation on the left, but then also you have status info and settings, giving you a number of different menu layouts to choose from, such as your volume and beeps, audio, display, clock, Bluetooth, others, navigation. You also have information pertaining to your fuel economy, tire pressure monitoring system, traffic info, etc. You also have your AM FM button here and your CD button. You can slide in those CDs, your favorite music that you burned maybe, what, 20 years ago now? Beneath that is going to be your volume and tuning buttons, your scan, seek, and track, and also an analog clock. Love to see it. Beneath that is going to be your dual zone climate control, your AC, front rear defrosters, fan speed, fan direction. Also, there will be a 12-volt outlet here. For the rear backup camera, though, this is kind of ahead of its time in some ways. You're going to have a top view camera, a top view, and a rear backup camera with trajectory. Now, this was not standard, but still, though, you know, this is a vehicle that came out in 2014. Really great stuff here, although the resolution is garbage. It is so bad. In fact, in dim light, you might as well just use your mirrors. Just go the old way, because these cameras just are not there. And again, this is early technology that we got to keep in mind here. Now, for the center console itself, traditional gear shifter. Now, this is old. This is the old days here. So when you put it in drive, you can slide over the left, and now you can upshift and downshift, because there was no paddle shifters here for the V6 option in 2014. I like the brushed aluminum accents here as well for that gear shift knob. Now, you are going to have a drive mode selector here for snow, so you can go off-road, you can take on the winter road conditions. And then next to that is going to be your dials for your 3-level heated and ventilated seats. Forgot to mention that. Took a little long to get there, but we got them. So heated and ventilated seats up front, power adjustability, great stuff here. You have 2 cup holders. Then for the center storage compartment, enough room for some smaller items, another 12-volt outlet there. You could probably store a couple smartphones, wallets, other tech gadgets. And then above is going to be a power moonroof, which brings in a lot of natural light to the interior. But this now leads me into those optional packages. So for $4,300 of the premium package, we have that surround view monitor, giving us front and rear sonar, a navigation system, memory driver seat, the power tilt and telescopic steering column, the reverse tilt down mirrors, and the aluminum roof rails. For $2,950, we have the technology package, giving us adaptive front lighting, intelligent cruise control, lane departure warning, intelligent brake assist, distance control assist, rain sensing wipers, and pre-crash seatbelts, which this would all be mostly standard now in 2026. And the last package here is the deluxe touring package, maybe the more impactful one that we have here today, giving us a 20-inch aluminum alloy wheels wrapped in performance tires, climate control front seats, quilted leather trim seats, the aluminum pedals, maple interior accents, which I really do love here, and then a cargo cover for the back. But still, though, when you factor in the pricing here, that's a lot of money to give up. I mean, you're looking at, what, close to $10,000 in add-ons there? That's where I think back in 2015, this is where the QX70 was losing its value. It was losing its allure, because at $50,000 to $60,000, there were a lot more options out there than when this vehicle first came out in the early 2000s. For passengers in the second row, starts off with the headroom, since this was one of the very few vehicles of its time with a sloping roofline and lower roofline. And honestly, I don't think taller passengers will be hitting their head on the headliner. That's a plus. Now, for second row seating area, though, you're looking at right around 34.5 inches of legroom, which is similar to a midsize sedan of its day. And that's where the QX70 kind of goes backwards. That's where it really falls apart for this vehicle, especially in the middle portion of last decade when crossovers were becoming very mainstream. Because people want more legroom. They want to have their kids in the second row. They want to store everything in the back. And that's what the QX70 just couldn't meet those demands. However, though, I'm comfortable sitting back here. I can sit back, relax, enjoy the driving experience. Also, these seats are phenomenal. The leather trim seats are so cushy. It's like sitting on a couch, which, again, you don't see this anymore in the automotive industry. It's similar to a Mercedes-Benz in that way, which is why, like, I look at Infiniti right now with this particular generation. It's like, this was close to being a Japanese Mercedes-Benz, and you can definitely feel that. You feel the quality, you feel the refinement. And better yet, even back here, you have the brushed aluminum accents and the wood grain trim once again on the door panel. So they didn't cut corners here back in 2014. You can have 2 center-mounted air vents to go along with a 12-volt outlet. And then to round out the second row seating area, you're going to receive a center armrest and a cubby here to go along with 2 cup holders. Making our way around to the back one more time to take a look at the rear cargo area. With the QX70, we do have a power liftgate, but it takes forever to open up. Behind the second row seats, you're looking at right around 24 cubic feet of room, which is kind of a compact crossover dimension, if I'm going to be honest here. And this right here is why the QX70 just couldn't compete with the Cayenne, BMW X5, etc. Although I'm not going to sit here and complain, because I'm able to fit all my camera gear today, 2 bags of camera gear, a gimbal box, and a tripod. There's enough room for a couple more carry-on cases as well. And you do have a cargo cover, which is even better. Then when you lower the second row of seats, you're looking at around 60, 65. So again, this is really where it did hurt Infiniti, because at $60,000 on the higher end, you could get better. You could get a vehicle that could match the performance at this stage in the game. At around 2014, 2015, you had other vehicles out there. Everyone else had caught up. So the practicality was kind of icing on the cake, where it's like, all right, at $60,000, I could go with a Cayenne, I can go with a BMW X5, and I'm getting a better vehicle when it comes to its overall versatility. And Infiniti just couldn't match in that way. So even though now, in 2026, $60,000 still gets you like an Audi SQ5 or Q5, this right here in 2014, this was mid-size crossover territory. So the practicality was a no-go, and people wanted a 3-row crossover at this price point, which is why Infiniti decided to go with the QX60 solely for this particular price range. And that's why we don't have sporty crossovers from Infiniti anymore until now with the QX65. As we set off on this test drive with the Infiniti QX70, really the FX37, I don't even know where to begin here. I really, truly don't. Do I start off with the naturally aspirated V6? Do I start off with the 7-speed automatic transmission, the hydraulic steering, or the fact that I'm sitting on a platform that now I believe is 23 years old? Because I think, in some ways, journalists didn't like this SUV in 2014. It was old. It was outdated. The technology was not comparable to what you would find out of a Porsche Cayenne, out of a Range Rover Sport. And yet, everything that's plaguing Infiniti right now, that they're trying to get back to, right? They're going to have a most likely Q50 with a manual transmission, with a twin-turbo V6. They're bringing back the QX65, an SUV that is I guess, the spiritual successor to this. They're trying to find that. They're trying to find that soul and passion once again. But all those answers is in this vehicle right here. And we're going to demonstrate all of that on a winding back road very soon. Because everyone who said the FX platform was way ahead of its time, they weren't lying. They were not lying at all. And I had no idea just how far ahead of the curve they were back in 2004, 2005. And I'd even argue at around 2014, although this is when the Germans really were catching on with the Audi Q5, Porsche Macan, the BMW X3 started getting a bit sportier. So the Germans started undercutting what Infiniti was offering here, because on the high end, you were spending close to 60 grand. And so journalists would sit there and say, this is too expensive at $60,000, it's too outdated, doesn't offer a third row, isn't very practical, and the fuel efficiency isn't there. So Infiniti, they sat there and thought, all right, we're going to listen to those criticisms, we're going to take it to heart, and we're going to make vehicles that actually journalists are going to give us high praise for. So they give us the QX60, they give us the Q50, they give us the QX50. Vehicles that were polar opposites of their predecessors. I mean, even the EX product line, you look at the power output and you're like, how did Infiniti not succeed? How did they not succeed from 2005 to 2015? Because they were offering products like this that I'm in right now that would be comparable to the modern day crossovers, aside from the lack of a great touchscreen and a full digital gauge cluster. But mechanically, this feels like a sports car. With this naturally aspirated V6, there's a lot of power off the line. And okay, mid-range is where it lags a bit, typical for a naturally aspirated V6. And then on the high end, when you get to 6,000, 7,000 RPM, when it's screaming, shifts into the next gear very smoothly, it's such an enjoyable experience. But then also you have the hydraulic steering to me that just, yes, steer-by-wire can replicate, but just not in the same way that Japanese manufacturers do today, where they are a bit numb, a bit sedated, a bit boring, and this is everything that enthusiast could possibly want out of a grocery getter, out of a vehicle that is just a point A to point B vehicle and a family hauler. And yet I feel so connected. I'm aware of everything that's going on here with this vehicle. And I can feel it mechanically. And I'm sure that back in 2014, 2015, people were sitting there thinking, oh, this isn't like the vehicles of old. But man, we have gone wrong here in the 2020s. We had it all. We had it all 10 years ago, and with technology that's 20 years old. Now, as we're cruising along here in stop-and-go traffic and on city streets, it's smooth. It really is. The 7-speed automatic isn't gear hunting. Yes, I would love to have paddle shifters, but it's smooth. It's very, I don't want to say it's Mercedes-Benz-like, but it feels like a Mercedes-Benz product here, which might be sacrilegious. Interior insulation is really good. I think top-notch here. And also, just the overall smoothness and refinement is something that I would say, again, is probably ahead of its time. But on back roads, this is where the QX70 comes to life. With the hydraulic steering, for one, it gives you a lot of heft and weight to this SUV. But I'll tell you, considering the size of the QX70 at 191 inches in length, you don't feel it. And even though this is not the most sports-tuned SUV out there, it can handle the corners really well. There's not a lot of body roll here. It feels lower to the ground. It drives like a G37. And what's funny here is that it feels like a Porsche Macan. It really truly does. And I understand as to why this probably didn't succeed against the Cayenne, because the Cayenne was larger, Range Rover Sport was larger. And for $60,000, yes, you were paying a lot. But considering that this isn't even the V8 version, just how much Infiniti had poured into this vehicle, how much development. You feel that 20 years of development here. And you're just not getting this anymore out of any product today. And that's what's so special about this model. That yes, I can see its faults. I can see the faults for sure. That maybe, we're entering, the middle portion of the 2010s, so ZF8 speeds, dual clutches are starting to become a bit more refined, and now you're getting SUVs that are quicker, and this was getting slower, the fuel range wasn't there. So we can all start tacking on the criticisms and the downsides to this SUV. But then you get to the soul, the character, the passion, and that's where the QX70, in my mind, is so special. I had to talk about it in the past tense because we're just never going to see anything like this again. And I'm hoping that Infiniti does move back in this direction. I just think they're soul searching when in reality they had a soul 10 years ago. And I think going back to this, especially now, would be the wiser choice. We'll have to wait and see on that one. Now, what I also find really impressive here is that considering this model has 100,000 miles on it, there's no rattling, there's no creaks, these leather trim seats are comfortable, and it perfectly balances luxury and performance that Japanese brands now are having great difficulty finding. But in closing, after spending some time today with the QX70, this was the Japanese Porsche Macan. This was the Japanese BMW X3. They got it right. Infiniti got it right. They nailed it. And it took so long for the Germans to catch up, which is just laughable to me. It's laughable. Because Its agility, its maneuverability, its handling. It shouldn't be this fun. I should be sitting here saying, the analog feel is garbage. The 7-speed automatic just can't compete with the automatics of today. Or the naturally aspirated V6, yeah, but I want that turbo power. No, not at all. Not at all. This is like a Grand Tour that's practical. This is a 4-door Grand Tour with cargo space, with enough room to fit a family. And wow, just wow. Older tech really is the way to go. So guys, let me know what you think here about the Infiniti QX70. Is this a diamond in the rough? Is this a vehicle that everyone has forgotten about? Is it that legendary SUV still all these years later? One more thing I want to talk about too, the pricing. So for this one with 100,000 miles, comes in below $15,000. I think under $15,000, you're getting a lot of vehicle for the price. But guys, once again, thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I will see you guys next time.